working on a 2020 Ford Explorer, and I wanted to do a quick little video on how to remove the 12 volt battery from the 2020 Ford Explorer. There's actually not a lot of videos to show how to do this. So we have the 2020 Ford Explorer limited edition with the 4-cylinder EcoBoost engine. And so the battery is located right here. And it's a little complicated to actually remove the battery. If you're just wanting to jump it off, it's relatively easy to access, but doing a full removal of the battery, that's a little more complicated. So there's a series of little plastic nuts that hold the plastic shroud on here. And you can see a couple of those on the other side right there. I'll zoom in a little bit, but that's what they look like. They just twist out, and then you can actually pull them completely out of the hole, and that's just so you don't lose them. So I've already removed everything. And then if you lift this shroud up, you have access to the 12 volt battery. And we're gonna remove the bolt there, and then there's one on the hot positive side as well. And then on the back side of the battery, you have that tiny little bolt right there. It's kind of hard to see because it's dark, but that will loosen the base that holds the battery in place. And so we will loosen that and then take this thing out. So let's get started. Okay, as you can see right here, I've got the negative side off. I've loosened the bolt on the positive side, but I also was going to mention that this shroud right here that you see, this actually does need to come off. So see right there, that shroud does come off. So it's just it's got a couple of clips that are holding it down. You can just pop it up like that, and it just pulls out like so. And this is several connections that go on the top of the hot side, as you can tell. So okay, so this is what it looks like. I've removed these two just for ease of maneuvering this around. I will say that this is kind of misleading, but here is the positive side. This 10 millimeter bolt here looks as though this would be what you would need to loosen this positive terminal, but that is not accurate. This nut right here is the release of the tension for the positive side. So once this nut is loosened, it'll take a little bit of moving back and forth and kind of struggling with it a minute, but then you'll see this pops up. So you do have to remove the nut that's holding on the top side of the positive terminal here. And then you can move this over and just kind of rest it out of the way. There's actually a little bit of tension you can put on it, and it'll hang on this plastic piece right here. Just a little trick there, but you can hang that right there. And then to get this huge black connector box off, there's a tab here and a tab on the back side, and it's kind of hard to get down to, and it's actually easier if you come in with your left hand, and then you just pop that connector, and as you see, that pops that side, and then there's one on the back. And then once you pop the one on the back, the entire piece lifts off, and this is where this is important to take these off. You can lift this entire piece off and then maneuver that out of the way, just like so. And it'll rest in this little crease right here. And now you've got full access to the battery. So these are out of the way. There is a vent tube on the back side since this is an AGM battery. You've got a vent tube on the back, but as you see here, we've got, this is actually a 5/16 is what the socket called for here. And we had to put an extension on the socket, and we're loosening that. And that should give us movement of the battery itself. You can see we've now got a little bit of movement. It's not loose enough yet, so we're gonna have to keep working on it to get that out. So we've got the battery out. It definitely took a pretty good bit of pulling on this. You can get a better look on that bolt that I was talking about. You have to loosen. That base actually is what holds the battery in secure. And so I had to loosen that a pretty good bit. And then the battery actually slides forward just a little bit at the bottom, and that allows you to then work it out from under that base. And then you've got to tilt it at a pretty good angle to be able to pull it straight out of that compartment. As you can see, it is not a big window to be able to get it out. And I think putting the new battery in is going to be even more of a challenge, because you got to get it in under this first, and then make sure you don't pinch any of your cables underneath. So now's the chance to work on that. So this is a comparison between the two batteries that we've got. This is the one we just pulled out, and this is a 12 volt, 70 amp hours. Looks like it's 720 cold cranking amps. And this is a 48H6, and it is an AGM battery, as you can see here. So we got this. This is a 3-year free replacement Duracell Platinum. And this is an H6, as you can see here, 48H6 AGM. And this one actually came from Sam's, and I think it was with tax, it was right at $230. Walmart actually had the Everstarts in this for $169, but they were sold out, and Sam's was the next closest, and so that's where we got this. And this is actually a 3-year. I think the Everstart was only a 2 year. So we're going to get this thing put in and see how difficult it is. Okay, so we've got the battery in. I will say, lesson learned, make sure you remember what cables you disconnected. So this one here actually got bound up underneath when I slid the battery in, because you kind of come in at a 45-degree angle underneath this plastic shroud. And this one got pinched in up underneath there. And there's a white or a gray wiring harness down here that's kind of halfway down this wire. And that got bent up under there, and then it made it difficult to pull it back out. So I was able to reach my hand in on the right side over here and pull this cable back out. And so now we're gonna go back in. We'll tighten that, tighten the base bolt. See it right back there? We'll tighten that base bolt back down, and then we will reconnect the vent tube, as you see here, negative, put our black plastic back on top of the battery, reconnect the positive, reconnect these two cables right here, and then reposition all this plastic shroud, and then we'll be done. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got our negative terminal back connected. We've got our vent tube in the back. I did retighten the 5/16 bolt on the back to secure the base. We have the black plastic clipped back on. The front and the back clips went on. We've resecured these two cables here. And the only thing we have left is to put the positive terminal back on. We have one nut that'll tie that to the top of the metal bracket up here, and then we'll tighten this nut here, which is the clamp around the terminal, and then we'll give it a test. Okay, so we've got it back up, fired up, got our covers back on. Everything looks to be running good. So we'll put these plastic screws back in and call it a day.